And I wish I were a salmon fish. Salmon fish. Oh, I wish I were a salmon fish. Salmon fish. I would only have one wish. I don't end up in a dish if I were a salmon fish. Salmon fish.
So cooking at 43 degrees north is this this effort to bring people together around cooking and socializing around food, and how food really is a way of bringing people together and learning about other cultures and exploring all different sorts of cuisines and food and so forth. So we've been running programs once or twice a month. Some of them are workshops like this. Some of them are swaps where we choose a food and people bring dishes and everybody swaps and gets to take home different kinds of things. We did a rhubarb swap. We've done a summer vegetable swap, those sorts of things. And so out of a conversation that I had around the Feast of the Seven Fishes, this program came out of it. And then Monique was wonderful enough to join with us, so that she's bringing the fishery side, and also she's a good cook too. So.
Well, I try. I try hard. So I'm Monique Coombs. I'm the Director of Community Programs for the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association. I've been with the organization for about 7 years, but I've been working in the fishing industry in some capacity since 2008. I live on Orr's Island. I'm married to a commercial fisherman, and I have 2 kids, both of whom fish. My daughter's 17. She actually just got her commercial fishing license last week, which means she completed the lobster apprenticeship program, which is about 1,000 hours on the water working. She had to do a drill conductor safety course, so she put a lot of hard work into it, and it's been awesome. She and her younger brother, who's 13, you might see them out on the water sometimes in the summertime, and they sold their lobsters during COVID to neighbors and friends and stuff. The Maine Coast Fishermen's Association, so our office is on Pleasant Street in Brunswick. It's a big blue building. The mission of the organization is to restore the fisheries in the Gulf of Maine and sustain Maine's fishing communities for future generations. The organization was founded in 2006 by groundfish fishermen out of Port Clyde. We'll talk a little bit about groundfish today, but since that time the organization has grown quite a bit. We now work with fishermen in all of Maine's fisheries, all along the coast of Maine, and even some in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. So really excited to be a part of this. Talking about seafood and eating seafood's a great way to connect and learn more about the commercial fishing industry, which is super important to a lot of families in Harpswell. So whatever questions you have, I'll do my best to answer them, and we can just have some fun.
Great, excellent. So the Feast of the Seven Fishes is an Italian-American tradition based on a tradition in Sicily. Not all families do it, but my family always ate fish on Christmas Eve. You didn't eat meat until Christmas Day. And so the Feast of the Seven Fishes, they don't know why it's 7 fishes. Some families do 9, some do 11. Mostly it's an odd number. And most families also it's either the 7 sacraments in the Bible or the Catholic Church. Sorry, or it's they thought the 7 hills of Rome might be the significance of 7, or it might be the 7 days that in the creation story in Genesis. And who knows? There could be other reasons for the 7 that different people hold on to. A lot of times they're more unusual fishes get eaten during the feast. So a lot of times they'll do eel or octopus or scungili, which is conch. A lot of the more rarer fishes tend to be used. Salt cod is another big one. Bacala. A lot of families will have that, and they tend to do those, just on Christmas Eve. So it's something very special. And when Monique and I were talking about doing this session, we wanted to focus on some of the fisheries, the local fisheries. And so these happen to be 3 recipes that I do make regularly for my Feast of the Seven. I call it Feast of the Fishes because I never know how many they're going to be. And so the first is a lobster arancini. Rice balls are Sicilian in heritage, and a lot of times they're stuffed with all different sorts of things. Traditionally, I think they're stuffed with meat, tomato sauce, and peas. But because it's because it's the Feast of the Fishes, we make a lobster version. And so we're going to do that. And then we're going to make linguine and clam sauce. And then the final dish is a fillet of flounder oreganata. And we chose those fishes, as Monique will tell you, for particular reasons. They happen to be local. They happen to have some good stories that go along with them. And so we're going to start. And we did do some prep because we are running on a particular amount of time. And so the lobster arancini, I've picked most of the lobsters, but we wanted to show, when we were talking about it, a couple of people said, well, actually, I don't know how to pick a lobster. So we thought and since Monique can do it really quickly, we thought we'd just...
This is going to be the time that I can't do it really quickly.
Whatever. I'll
try my best.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Why did they choose fish that were potentially more rare to find? Was there a reason behind that?
The specialness of
The
Christmas
specialness?
Eve. Just, yeah, it's, once you tend to do something special
Yep,
for the
that
holidays,
makes
and
sense.
that was why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Monique, I see you, the bands is still on the lobster.
What'd I tell you?
Yeah. We talked about that.
Yeah, so there is a big debate about whether or not to keep your bands on lobsters when you cook them. I'm team, it doesn't matter. Back in the day, I think they had a larger amount of rubber in the material so that if you cook the lobsters in the water, the meat could potentially take on that rubber taste. These days, they're made with more plastic than they are rubber, so they don't have that same rubbery taste. The other thing is, you should be steaming your lobsters, not boiling them. So that means that the bands aren't potentially going to be saturated in the water and sort of dispersing that flavor on them. So it's really, to give you the best sort of fisherman answer I can, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other, whether or not you leave the bands on or not. For a lot of people, I would actually say, please keep the bands on, because if you don't know how to handle a lobster well, you're going to get bit. Which is, getting your finger stuck in the claw. So, yeah, for most people, I would say don't worry about it too much.
Can you tell us quickly about steaming lobsters?
Sure. So, lobsters, especially when they're fresh, if you're getting them from my kids or my husband or your neighbor or whomever, they have a lot of water in them already. So you don't need to soak them in water. You just put an inch or two of water, put the cover on the pot, and when the steam starts to come out, that means you can throw the lobster in. You should put them claws first, because if you put the tail in first, it's going to flip and you have the potential to splash water on yourself. So put the claws in first. And then, and I was just talking to some friends about this at lunch. There's probably a scientific number of minutes that you should have them in until they're done, but I just sort of watch them, and then I get like this feeling that they're done. And then I take them out and I let them sit for a few minutes so I don't burn my fingers when I'm cleaning them. There are some things that you can do, like you can snap the antenna. Some people do that as like a means to check and see if it's done. They don't take nearly as long as you probably think to cook. I think it's something like anyway, I don't know. We'll find the answer for you in regards to how long you should cook them, but it's not too long. So
Yeah, these were...
And it depends on how many are in the pot too.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, these I did about 11 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
The-
Steam 11? Yeah, okay, that's long.
yep.
That's long?
Does it matter soft shell or not? Because soft shell is more water, right? Inside?
No, I don't change that much just because they're soft or hard shell.
There were 6 in the pot.
Oh, that's all right.
Okay.
So the way I clean them is I rip the claws off first and then the tail. And then, I'll take a claw off and chew on it while cleaning on it if you want to get the whole thing. Do you have a trash? I don't want to keep putting this with stuff.
Yeah, here.
Some people, if you really want to get all the meat out, and the way that you can get the meat out of things like this is you can put it down and use a rolling pin, and the rolling pin will push the meat out. But for the sake of time today, we'll throw that in there. Lobster bodies do have some meat along the back that you can get. They're also good for making lobster stock, which if you grab a copy of the Scuttlebutt Working Waterfront Guide that I brought today, there is a lobster stock recipe from the New York Times, but you do just exactly what you think you do. You throw the bodies and the shells in the pot with some water, bay leaves, whatever, cook it down. Ta-da, lobster stock.
And for the risotto for the lobster arancini, you use lobster stock.
Oh,
so
perfect. Okay, so then I don't know if you can see. It's just a matter of, I don't know how to explain it to. Always break the shells away from your body because you can. I don't want to splash myself, but I don't mind splashing you guys apparently. There are obviously tools that you can get, pickers and crackers. You want to sometimes check the claw meat to make sure there's not a piece of cartilage in there because that's not too fun. I just use my pinky fingers to get meat out. And I can keep doing this. And then the tail, I feel like, is also another place for debate sometimes about how you clean it. I break the back part of the tail off. Again, if you're really getting into it, there is a little bit of meat in these things. And then I break the tail and push the meat out, or I just pull it apart and the meat comes out. Now, I always find it funny when you're watching TV that they just bite into the tail, but you're definitely going to want to break it open to get rid of the red bread, and then also if there's I think the polite term for it is the vein that's in the back of the tail. You're going to want to just get that out. So these ones were nice and easy to do. I know some people rinse their lobster meat. I am not a fan of rinsing. I think you get rid of a lot of the flavor when you do something like that. I want to make sure I get all the meat out of this.
And I keep the roe.
You keep it?
And and it makes like if you're making lobster stew, you get a nice red color to it.
Oh, that's a great idea. Members of my husband's family and then my grandfather too. What do you do with the tamale?
I put it in.
You put that in too? My grandfather used to spread it on bread, on toast.
Oh, interesting.
You eat it? You love it? Yeah.
I eat it. I like it.
I think for me it's always been a texture thing, but maybe I need to try again sometime. So, but there is places to use that as well. So just keep picking the meat, pushing until it gets out. Obviously when they're hard shells, you're gonna want like a mallet or something. The other thing that I do when it's a hard shell though, it's not very classy, but I just put the claw between and that usually does the trick. This one's not that bad, but, and again, just check to make sure if there's a little piece of cartilage, and then you've got your meat right there. So we're using a baking sheet because we're here, but also we use baking sheets at home when we're cleaning our lobsters too, because they keep all the juice in them and what have you, and then they make you can take that away and eat whatever when your lobster meat's done. The other little debate we have in our house is, well, it's not in our house, but I used to always put all my lobster meat in the butter and then like go wash my hands and and then sit and eat my lobster meat. But now I dip in the butter or, do whatever. But I think cleaning lobsters, just like, when we used to clean shrimp, such a nice way to sit with your family and engage and eat dinner and like sort of linger at the table. So you want me to keep cleaning this one while you?
yeah, let me have the meat from that one.
Can I ask a little question? Do you rinse your other fish?
No. No. Nope. And Leanne and I actually talked a little bit about this when we were doing stuff too, and we'll talk about it when we get the clams. But no, I don't usually, not unless for some reason something was dirty, but I don't know why it ever would be. But no, I don't rinse anything. I don't know if anybody else does.
Yeah.
No.
I've had it with paper towel just in case it's like glue.
Oh yeah, I'll do that. If I'm making a lobster roll or I'm honestly doing anything with fish, like a breading or anything like that, I always dry off my fish, always dry off my lobster meat because I have such a high water content. It can just deflect the oil or the breadcrumbs won't stick very well. So it's definitely, yeah, that I'll do.
So what I'm doing is I'm chopping the lobster meat and I'm adding it to this pot, and there's a couple of tablespoons of butter in there, and this is going to be what we're going to stuff the arancini with. So the rice balls are made from some sort of rice, and for this recipe it's actually a lobster risotto. So it's made with lobster stock, I use arborio rice, which you can buy in the supermarket, or other people use carnaroli rice. Either's fine. They're short grain, starchy rice. And so you're going to take make the risotto. You need to chill this pretty substantially so that it doesn't fall apart when you're working with it. So the nice thing about this recipe is you can space it out over a couple of days. You can prep your lobsters, a day before, and then store the meat. You can make your risotto a day before. And if is everybody familiar with how you make risotto? A little, yeah. You just want to keep the heat low. You don't have to stir it the whole time. You can put the broth in. You put it in like ladleful increments and stir it, and then you can let it simmer for a little bit, and then you add more when that's fairly dry. And the idea is that you're helping to bring out the starch, and you're getting and you're cooking the rice. And think about, if you put rice in a pot, it's going to take about 20 or 25 minutes. So risotto takes about that length of time too. So you're working on a very low heat and just adding hot stock as you go. And then what you do for this recipe, or for actually any arancini, is you spread your rice out onto a cookie sheet and put it in the refrigerator. And it can be, a couple hours or overnight, whatever. And then once you're ready, you put the peas on top. Again, this is for this recipe though. Right, for other arancini that have meat in it, peas go on the top of the rice too. And then I'm just going to put this all in this bowl.
And the peas went on frozen and on top
They're,
of the rice while it was in the fridge?
No, they go on. I thawed the peas first and then just laid them over the top and they chill with the rice.
Okay.
And this is when they're going to get mixed into the rice mixture. Okay. And this is I made 1 1/4 that recipe for what I thought we would need for this group. So once you've got your rice in the bowl, the next step is to just mix it around, and you're going to add some eggs to it. And this is as a binder. I forgot one time to add the eggs. It didn't matter.
That's good to know.
Yeah, just in case, because the rice was starchy enough that it holds together. And then just a little bit of breadcrumb. And you just are gonna work that in till it's all mixed.
What can I do to help?
I was just checking to see how hot that was, but I think it's good. So then,
Oh, that looks good.
That you're making, how many people are you looking at?
so that I was thinking about 20 people because we're serving our camera operators and everybody, and Donna and Laura and so forth. So I was thinking 20. That recipe makes 18 orange size arancini. And orange and arancini means orange in Italian, so that's the size. I tend to use these as an appetizer, and so I make them smaller. And so I'm figuring roughly 2 per person for an appetizer. And then I've got a couple of sauces that you can use with the arancini. Okay, so then basically what you do, and I'm going to have you guys actually make these. So I'm going to demonstrate a couple of them. I take like about a golf ball size. Is that a good? Okay, and I just flatten it in my hand. And then I take a little bit of the lobster and I set it right in the center. And then I just sort of push the lobster down and roll the ball up, keeping the lobster in the middle. Now sometimes I might not have had enough rice and I'll just take a little and fill the gap. And then I just play with them till I get a ball.
Well, it comes together.
And it comes together. And then I'll just set them down and I'll do them all.
Is that the size you make for an appetizer?
Yeah. Yeah.
A little bigger than a golf ball.
A little bigger than, it ends up being a little bigger than a golf ball.
That's why 2 should be enough.
I'm sorry?
2 should be enough.
Yeah, that's what I think for an appetizer.
I would want more than that.
Right. So very simple. The lobster, like I said, is just chopped and then cooked in butter. You can use other fillings. In the summer, I often make them with like chopped zucchini and a little bit of like fontina cheese. A cheese that melts is really good for the center of these. Again, the traditional is like ground beef and tomato and peas. But really, there are some restaurants that do an arancini special, and I think they just use their whatever they have in the kitchen that they want to get rid of. You know, it works. You can really do, you can do whatever. So what I would like to do is I'll set this bowl over on the other table. There are gloves over there also, I think. If you'd like to dig in and try rolling some arancini, that'd be great. We'll finish this batch, and then we'll bread them, and then we'll fry them, and then we'll snack. Sound good?
Do you want me
Okay.
to chop this lobster up and put it in there
Sure,
too?
yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
Yep.
So how many lobsters have you chopped up to put in the orange?
I did 6. These are small. It's a total of 8 pounds of lobster. They're
Yeah.
on the small side, so. I just didn't. You just don't know how much lobster meat you're going to get out of any one lobster. So, okay.
If you want to take that stuff over, I'll bring
Yeah,
the
can I
lobster
just,
over in a second.
Give you that. If anybody has any questions about the lobster fishery, now is also a good time to talk a little bit about that. Whatever. Or not. You can. Everybody seems good. Yes.
And it gets cooked a little bit more, right? So it's okay that there's some cooler on.
Rolling home in the morning
Dig in
at
there.
the break of dawn. Rolling home across the ocean where I've wandered for so long. Rolling home to my darling, that's where I belong. Blow your winds, run your tides back to harbor. A sailor's life is dreary far from home. He's often wet and weary out on the salty foam. He is gone for a year, oftentimes more, hoping that his dearie's waiting for him. Rolling home in the morning at the break of dawn. Rolling home across the ocean where I've wandered for so long. Rolling home to my darling, that's where I belong. Blow your winds, run your tides back to harbor. Do you want a trip to China? Well, sign on board. Or down under to Australia, pick up a load of wool. Trade for tea in India and bear for home. Hoist the sail, haul the anchor, head for harbor.
It's in this pie plate, and I've added just a tablespoon or 2 of water just to thin it a little bit.
Does it matter if you use water? I know sometimes when I make stuff that has an egg wash, I'll use like milk or almond milk or.
For this, I tend to use water, but I think anything works. You know, and what I found is with COVID and I didn't always have everything that I needed
Yeah,
in the
that
house,
makes
and I
sense.
got to be really good at substituting. Oh, this will work, so I think if you know,
Yeah, just with water. Okay.
water's fine, milk's fine. Okay, so the process here is flour, egg, breadcrumbs. And the idea is to use one hand wet and one hand dry, right? So that you don't get all gooped up. So you start with the hand that's going to be wet, and you pick up your rice ball and you put it in the flour. And then with your dry hand, you just bread it, okay? Then you drop your rice ball in your egg and you use your wet hand, right? And you just what?
I know how to do this, and I still don't do it.
I know. And then with your wet hand you put it in the breadcrumbs. And this is a mixture of panko and fine breadcrumbs, because the panko adds a little bit of crunch, and then but you also want the regular breadcrumb to sort of get close to the rice ball, okay?
And what is panko?
Panko is a Japanese kind of breadcrumb, and it's a crispy one. The container is over on the table if you want to take a look, okay?
Do you want this for the?
Yeah, that's great.
I don't know what to.
Yeah. Okay. And then when you're done, you want to put them on the cookie sheet. Okay. So again, you pick up with the wet hand. Wet hand.
And just a dry cookie sheet.
Yeah, for the time being. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw them in the refrigerator for a sec. I would normally do that. I'm not going to do it today because we don't have the time. And then just so that they chill and solidify a little bit. Yeah, that's a good word, firm. Yep. And then, yep. And then we're going to deep fry these. And I just use regular vegetable oil. And the vegetable oil has to get pretty hot. It's supposed to get up to about 375 degrees.
So vegetable or canola then?
Vegetable or canola. I read an article about canola oil, supposedly 375 for the oil. And I have a deep fry thermometer in the pan.
Leanne, have you tried these in the air fryer?
I have not. I don't have an air fryer, so I did try baking them one time. No. If you use hot enough oil, they don't absorb the oil really. I mean, you'll end up missing maybe 2 tablespoons of oil in the whole batch. So I don't think it matters, and the taste is much better when they're done that way.
What did you learn about canola oil that we should know?
They said that it's not supposed to be good for you.
Oh, really?
So,
I know a
yeah.
lot of people use it instead of vegetables.
I know,
Okay,
but you're
it's good to know. Okay.
corn. So this is just a regular vegetable oil. So I'm gonna take this both. So the eggs on that one need to be whipped up. I did put water in them, but I'm gonna. If you want to give me that big bowl back, and I'll give you these pans. You guys can take turns breading your arancini. Okay. Gail can, or somebody just stick that on the table over there, and you could put shrimp in here. Yeah, probably. Just note the lobster is cooked, so you'd want to just cook it a little bit, and then add it to the butter, and sure, anything's good. Okay.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Do you have some stew? We have
you.
the Maine Coast monkfish stew in that crock pot. You're welcome to try some. It's made with a lobster sauce. So, do you like it?
That is really good.
It's good. Monkfish is good to cook with because it's got body to it. That cooks a little fast, not as fast.
Okay, back.
And then you can make it a meal with like baguette, doing like a crostini on top, and then I put an avocado on top of it, and that was delicious. Yeah, or croutons if you want to get fancy, a little creme fraiche. Yeah, but it's really good.
Rolling home in the morning at the break of dawn. Rolling home across the ocean where I've wandered for so long. Rolling home to my darling, that's where I belong. Blow your winds, run your tides back to harbor. It isn't very funny when your pay is counted down. There's not a lot of money for the time that you've been gone. So you hug and kiss your honey, hold her while you can, till the captain says we're leaving in the morning. Rolling home in the morning at the break of dawn. Rolling home across the ocean where I've wandered for so long. Rolling home to my darling, that's where I belong. Blow your winds, run your tides back to harbor. Some men love adventure, and some love the sea. Some only love whiskey, and some love being free. But the only love I need is the love of my lady. Blow your run ye tides back to harbor. Rolling home in the morning at the break of dawn. Rolling home across the ocean where I've wandered for so long. Rolling home to my darling, that's where I belong. Blow your winds, run ye tides back to harbor. Rolling home in the morning at the break of dawn. Rolling home across the ocean
I'll step on to the other side since you're going to be messing with fry oil. Watch your feet.
that's where I belong. Blow your winds, run ye tides back to harbor. Back to harbor.
So I'm just going to give you a couple of tips about frying as we're going to start doing these. I do use a thermometer in the pot, so I make sure that the oil stays at a pretty high heat. This is 375 is what the temperature is for the oil. Once I start adding things, and particularly if these have chilled, and then I add them, the oil temperature is going to drop, and you've got to really let it get back up to temperature between batches so that it stays. These are really, I mean, everything is cooked already in these. The rice has been cooked, the lobster's cooked. So the only thing we're really cooking here is the egg and the. So they only really need to cook until they're warmed through and they're browned. So I'm just gonna add them to the pot carefully, and I'm not gonna add a ton of them. I get distracted when I do this, so I have to make sure that this is the only thing I'm doing when I'm frying, because, okay, so I'm just gonna add these to the pot.
About how many inches of oil do you have in there, Leanne?
I have about 4. Oftentimes, if I'm just, it depends how many I'm cooking. I needed to cook a number at a time so that we'll get them done. If I'm doing it for me, smaller, I tend to use the saucepan that I used for the lobster, so I use less oil. And if I have longer to do it, it doesn't, I can just cook. Oh, wait.
I don't have a thermometer. I should probably just get one, but the way I check if the oil is ready, I don't know if this is the right thing to do or not, but I take some of the panko mix and I drop it in the oil, and if it bubbles, that's what tells me that it's ready.
Yep.
Ooh, that looks beautiful.
Okay.
Do you put salt on them or anything afterwards? Or?
No, because the sauce has
Salt in it? Okay.
Yeah, and in fact, the sauces are a little salty, which
Okay.
I think is which is
Are you
good.
talking about the sauces that are over there?
Yeah.
Can I ask what we have for sauces?
Sure.
Okay. When you have a second.
Yeah,
I
let
know
me
you're-
get
I know
these
you're
in.
focused.
Yeah.
Now, somebody just asked if you can freeze them or,
Yes.
Ooh.
yes, I thought you had something
Yep.
in here.
So-
Or you could just heat them up in the oven right before you serve them again. or
Yep.
something.
Yeah, you can do these ahead, and then like the next day, just put them on a cookie sheet and heat them in. I think it's like a 300-degree oven for 10 minutes just to get them hot.
When you freeze them, do you with the breadcrumbs or without breadcrumbs?
With the breadcrumbs, but cooked.
Okay.
And so then you just are baking them, and bake them frozen. Don't defrost them, and then
Ah, good tip. Good
okay.
tip.
At what did you say?
I
This
think
says
it's like
400.
400. Okay, yeah. A minute and a half, maybe.
I don't know, 15, 20 minutes.
Heat them up.
You can cook a lot of fish from frozen too. You don't have to defrost
Right.
it. You can just throw it in the.
Yeah, and I also, if I've got anything with cheese, I never defrost it. I go straight into the oven. Otherwise, it gets really.
It's good to know. So like a frozen mac and cheese or something. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't. See, this batch, it cooled off just a little because,
And if they're not uniform in size, too.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got some variety in sizes.
There are
It's
some
okay.
oranges and golf balls.
Just
Yeah.
we can tell how hungry everybody is. Less hungry or more
Well,
hungry.
right. I think it's easier to roll them when they're bigger. It's so it may take a little more practice to get them a little bit smaller.
very long when it's in there, is it? I mean,
No.
I'm surprised how quickly you're pulling them out.
Right. That's why that's why you can't get distracted.
Yeah.
What would you recommend serving these with? Like a salad?
You can, if you want to make them as a main course, sure, a salad's good. But yeah, so we have 3 sauces over there. There's a tomato sauce, yeah, which is just, I just use a jarred sauce for this. So
Oh, I love sauces.
yeah, and then there's
Is that the saffron one?
the saffron one. Yep.
Ooh.
And then there's just a regular sort of garlic aioli. An aioli is a garlic mayonnaise, and you know you can make them all from scratch with egg yolks and everything in the blender. I use mayonnaise.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Those all
So,
look delicious.
Yeah. I think the saffron sauce and the aioli are a little bit on the salty side. And Monique was asking, you know, do you salt these after you cook them? I don't, because the sauces, to me, make up for that. So. So Monique, will you do me a favor and put these on the platter and scattered in
Scattered
between
around
them?
that
Yeah.
stuff? I would absolutely love to do that.
And then we can.
These are cute.
Right. Tongs are definitely,
Another thing, little tiny
Yeah.
tongs to go with the little bowls.
yeah.
Try to
And
make
like
it
I said,
cool.
once you get them breaded, you could refrigerate them for a little while just so that they hold together, but these really are doing fine.
Oh, that's a good one. That one's. Did you hear that? That was a. That one had some weight to it.
Leanne,
Yeah.
if they start falling apart, what have you done wrong?
What have you done wrong? You might not have added enough, I mean, you want
know I was looking
that,
for
you want to make sure that the rice is cold
plates
when you're
and
using it.
forks.
If it's not cold, it'll fall apart much more easily, so you want to make sure the rice is chilled. And why don't
know
you,
if
why
that's
don't
what-
you stick that out there and you
Oh, we
guys
can put
could-
that out
yeah,
there?
and
Okay.
then- and
Kind of
then you
wanted
guys
it
can-
near me, but that's fine. No,
So
I
there-
did. No, we can put it over on that table,
Yeah.
or
There are plates and stuff over there, and there are markers there. So if you want to just write your initials on the plate, so that when you put your plate down, you can
yep, reduce, reuse.
reuse your you can use your plate again.
And then I'll find. These look delicious.
Yeah.
It's a finger food, right?
Yeah.
You have about 5 or 6 or 7 in that pot at once?
Yeah. Probably about 6, I think I did.
Those went quick too. Really.
Yeah.
And how hard does temperature tend to go down?
It depends. If they've been chilled, it'll go down more. Because I didn't chill them, it's going pretty quickly. Yeah.
Want to try one, Monique? Bring it back.
Oh, you guys try first, and then I'll eat one. But thank you. Dig in.
Yeah.
Which sauce is your favorite?
I really like the garlic aioli.
I'm gonna try all 3.
Yeah.
I really am a big fan of sauces.
Yeah. So what do you think? They good? You can take off your mask.
You,
too.
you gotta
Yeah.
if you want to eat.
How are they?
Well, you know, if it's quiet, that means everybody's busy eating, so that's
Yes.
good.
Is it okay? Okay.
Come along and follow me to the bottom of the sea. I'm Maine's great commodity, local lobster here. We're the best, it's very clear. Help a lobsterman's career. We're so fresh and we're so near, local lobster here. I'm so yummy
man.
in a roll, or serve me in a bowl. Lobster salad, what delight, in a butter bath, I'm your supper tonight. So come along and follow me to the bottom of the sea. I'm Maine's great commodity, local lobster here. I'm so yummy in a roll, or serve me in a bowl. Lobster salad, what delight, in a butter bath, I'm your supper tonight. So come along and follow me to the bottom of the sea. I'm Maine's great commodity, local lobster here.
So that's pretty much it. If you have other questions, no. I'm just if there are other questions or whatever, I hope this was really fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. So thank you. Thanks to Monique. Yay. So all good. Thank you.
And I wish I were a salmon fish. Salmon fish. Oh, I wish I were a salmon fish. Salmon fish. I would only have one wish. I don't end up in a dish if I were a salmon fish. Salmon fish.